This is Kathy from Gadgetstop 321, and in today's video I'm going to be taking a look at Iroshizuku Momiji. It's a nice red ink, and I'm going to be testing it in a variety of pens and nib sizes ranging from a Pilot Extra Fine to a 1.5 stub nib. And I'm going to start with the Pilot Extra Fine. Okay, this is a Pilot 78G Plus, and this ink tended to stick to the nibs, especially the gold plated ones. Okay, this extra fine nib doesn't feel scratchy. I'm getting my feedback that you would expect from a nib this fine, but it wasn't scratchy. Next, I've got a Pilot Prera with a fine nib, and the stainless steel nibs that didn't have the gold plating, the ink didn't stick as bad to those. Some of them it wanted to stick around the slit, but some of them it didn't stick at all. And there's a big jump in smoothness going from the extra fine to the fine. Not a big jump in wetness though. I've got another 78G. This one has a medium nib. And I think most people would find this to be smooth, even people that use wider nibs. This is quite a bit smoother, but I'm kind of surprised at not a whole lot of difference in the wetness between those first three. Usually you'll see a noticeable jump at each level. I've got another Pilot Prera. This one has a cursive medium nib, or sometimes it's called a 1.0 stub. Had a little trouble there on the P, a little bit of a skip. Now it's not unbearable, but I am feeling, it feels like the nib slit is wanting to catch a little bit. Not all the time, but just a occasional scratchiness there, which is surprising with the extra fine being not scratchy. All right. This is a Nemesine with a Nemesine Singularity with a 0.6 stub. Now this is glassy smooth. Quite a bit wetter. That's probably why I felt the jump in smoothness. And finally, a Jinhao X750 with a 1.5 stub replacement nib. I like writing with this stub. It's like writing with a paintbrush with this ink. All right, I'm going to let that dry while we take a look at some of the other papers. All right, my main writing sample is down here. I've already previously tested several pens. Pilot Prera I did up here. I always kind of thought this was a pink ink because I originally used it in the Pilot Prera, and it has, I don't know if you can tell here if the camera's picking it up, but it's almost, since the Prera writes kind of dry, it looks kind of like a bubblegum pink. But then when I eventually tried it in my Skyline Sport and my Petite One, I'm like, oh, this is actually more of a red ink with just a little bit of pink in it. So when I wrote with that 78G with the extra fine nib on this arc paper, I was surprised it was smooth. It's not that it wasn't scratchy, it was actually smooth. So everything I wrote with here was smooth on this arc paper. So I was kind of surprised when I went to the Rhodia and the 78G wasn't quite as smooth. It wasn't scratchy, but I wouldn't call it smooth. Now, the fine nib then was smoother, and you can see the difference in wetness. That ink really soaked into the paper pretty quickly with all of these nibs. But when we get down to the Nemesign, it was smooth. It was scratchy on the Pilot Prera on this paper also. But not really any shading. This is a pretty flat, no interesting characteristics to this ink. Just a flat red with a little pink to it. On my 20-pound copy paper, it, again, the extra fine wasn't scratchy. The fine was smooth. I noticed with the medium, the ink was wanting to kind of spread. The Prera was kind of scratchy again. And then on these two stub nibs, I noticed that the ink wanted to spread. Not so much feather, it just all kind of wanted to spread. Kind of like writing with a felt tip marker on kind of poor paper or a magic marker on paper. It just, the ink wanted to spread. Let's see what it looked like on the bleed through. The stub nibs were really the only ones that wanted to bleed through. The extra fine through the medium and through the cursive medium. Not really any bleed through. On my little writing samples I'm doing in my Leuchtturm, it was just a flat velvety red ink, and you can see when you do the ink smear that it's got some pink in it, but it really looks more red to me. And I'm not really seeing any halo. Oh my goodness, on this I'm almost seeing, yeah, there's a gold sheen to it. I don't know if it's showing up, but when the ink is laid down really heavily, there is some gold sheen. Well, that's surprising. I didn't know that. Let's see on the Iroshizuku. Oh, yeah. I think I've got, hold on, let me turn on some light. I didn't realize I didn't have my overhead light on. I just had natural light. On this stub nib, I can really see some gold sheen. I hope it's able to pick that up. But I'm kind of surprised. Now on Tomoe River paper, the extra fine through the Prera cursive medium, it's coming across more pink. And then on the two stub nibs that really laid down more ink, it's red with a gold sheen. This one has quite a bit of gold sheen to it. Oh, I think you can see it there on the 1.5. Well, that was a surprise. All right, if you found this video helpful, please give me a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, please subscribe to my channel.